Hello everyone. Tonight we're stepping softly into a world very different from the cozy comfort of modern life. Picture yourself just waking up, the warm, humid breeze of an ancient Maya morning slipping quietly through the woven gaps of your thatched hut, stirring you gently from sleep. But let me be clear, this isn't your dream vacation. In fact, you probably wouldn't survive a full day here. So, before you get too comfortable, take a quick moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. And please, leave a comment with your location and local time down below. I always love seeing where in the world you're listening from tonight. Now, turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some soft background noise, and let's step quietly together into tonight's journey. You wake on a mat of woven reeds, the texture pressing gently into your skin. Your back aches slightly, not painfully, but persistently, from the firmness of the packed dirt beneath. The air is warm, thick, and damp, carrying the scent of wet leaves, earth, and faint traces of smoke. You blink slowly, still disoriented by the way light filters in through the palm leaf roof. No alarm buzzes. No phone glows beside your pillow. Just the rustle of leaves and the soft croaking of frogs greeting the rising sun that your eyes adjust. The walls of your hut are made of thin, woven sticks plastered with clay. There's a bowl of dried maize on a low wooden platform, a folded tunic beside it, and a clay jug near the doorway. There are no hinges or handles, no glass windows or electric switches, just nature and tools carved by hand. Every object shaped by hours of human labor. You stretch your arms and sit up. Your joints crack. This humidity clings to your skin, and even though it's just past dawn, you're already sweating. Outside, someone is stoking a fire. The sound of a grinding stone, the metate scraping maize into dough echoes softly through. The morning stillness. You throw on your simple tunic and step outside barefoot. The ground is dewy and cool at first, but then pebbles begin to dig into the soles of your feet. You grimace slightly, but say nothing. You're trying to blend in. Remember, there's no flip-flops here, no orthotic insoles. Just dirt, grass, and the hardened skin of people born into this world. A neighbor walks past. He greets you with a nod and a quick smile. His face is weathered, his muscles lean from daily labor. He carries a bundle of wood on his back tied together with twisted bark rope. You return the smile, though yours is awkward and late. You wish you spoke more Yucatec Maya. You wish your hands didn't already hurt. Someone hands you a water jar. Clay, heavy. It looks beautiful, hand-painted with red and black geometric patterns, but feels like lifting a baby elephant. You nod your thanks and begin the walk to the cenote. It's a sacred place, a natural sinkhole filled with water, so clear, looks unreal. But first, you must get there. The path is uneven, cutting through thick undergrowth. Twisted roots rise from the soil like ancient fingers. Bright blue butterflies dart past. Birds call out strange songs from the canopy above. Something rustles in the brush beside you, probably a lizard. Hopefully, you try not to panic. No one else panics. You keep walking. The cenote appears like a secret, carved into the earth. Stone walls drip with moss, and long vines dangle lazily down into the pool below. You climb carefully down the side and kneel to fill your jar. The water is cool and pure. You pause to take a sip, savoring the taste. No chlorine, no minerals, just rain and limestone. It's delicious, but the walk back? Less so. The jar now weighs at least as much as a stubborn toddler, and there's no convenient way to carry it. You clutch it awkwardly against your chest, arms burning. Your knees wobble. Your breath becomes shallow. And you've barely made it a few hundred meters. You rest, pretending to admire a butterfly, while secretly regaining your strength. You're not fooling anyone. A child passes you, easily balancing her jar on her head. She smiles at you kindly, perhaps a little pityingly, and continues down the path. You consider asking for help, but then, what's the point of time travel if you don't try to survive on your own? By the time you return to the village, you're soaked in sweat and pride. You drop the jar near the fire with an unceremonious grunt. Someone hands you a bowl of breakfast, a simple mixture of ground maize and beans, flavored with a dash of chili and a smear of cacao paste. It's hot, hearty, and oddly satisfying. You miss toast. But this'll do? Nearby, others gather. Some carry baskets of dyes made from insects and roots. Others twist cotton threads between their fingers with practiced ease. The village is alive now, buzzing with rhythm, with the soft cadence of morning routines. And then, a hush dot from one. Of the larger huts, a man steps forward in embroidered robes. A priest, perhaps, or a calendar keeper. He begins chanting low, melodic, hypnotic. He tosses crushed herbs onto a fire, and smoke swirls upward in thick spirals, dancing like spirits. You watch quietly, not sure if you should kneel or stand. Someone whispers that today marks the start of a new Bactana major calendar cycle. Historians still debate whether the Maya viewed these shifts as purely ceremonial or cosmically significant. Standing here, watching the villagers bow their heads in silent reverence, you suspect the answer lies somewhere in between. A small boy approaches and offers you a bundle wrapped in a banana leaf. You open it to find roasted cacao beans, bitter, earthy, and warm from the fire. You chew slowly, surprised by the burst of flavor. No sugar, just raw, ancient chocolate. It tastes like waking up in history. You smile, and the boy beams back. Maybe you're getting the hang of this. But as the sun climbs higher and the air thickens, you start to wonder if this is how the day begins. What else does it have in store for you? You walk slowly toward the edge of the village, your muscles still aching from the morning's ordeal. There's little time to rest. Just beyond the thatched rooftops lies the churning heart of this civilization, the marketplace. You follow. The sound before you see it, the rhythmic beat of drums in the distance, low voices trading prices, laughter rising in spurts like birds scattering into the sky. The path is uneven and narrow, flanked by rows of tall corn and flowering shrubs. The smell of earth is richer here, mixed with crushed herbs and distant sweat. You wipe your brow, the humidity clinging to your skin like a second garment, and step forward, unsure of what awaits you. As you enter the market square, your senses are immediately overwhelmed. Colors swirl in every direction. Bright red fabrics, deep blue pottery, yellow squash stacked beside jaguar-shaped incense burners. The air is thick with the scent of roasted meat, fermented cacao, and something sour perhaps, a pickled root or dried fish. Traders call out in a rhythm you don't understand, their words sharp and clipped, spoken fast like birdsong. You hear caw-caw repeated again and again, and realize quickly that this is not just a treat, it's currency. Cacao beans clink in woven bags, traded for textiles, feathers, obsidian blades. You watch a boy no older than 10 carefully count beans into a woman's palm, and it dawns on you how different the economy is here, how precious, how delicate. You're handed a small pouch by your guide, a silent gesture that seems more like a challenge than a gift. Inside are perhaps 20 cacao beans, dusty and misshapen. You clutch them tightly, the way you might clutch a wallet in a crowded city, unsure who to trust or where to begin. Around you, the market moves with relentless energy. A woman offers a bowl of tamales wrapped in green leaves. You smile, try to ask the price, then freeze as she eyes your pouch. She points, 7 beans. You hesitate. That's nearly a third of your wealth. Your stomach, of course, doesn't hesitate. You hand over the beans, and she presses the warm bundle into your hands with a satisfied nod. You step away to eat, ducking under a cloth canopy to avoid the growing sun. The tamale is filled with something spicy, earthy, and unfamiliar, maybe turkey or some kind of jungle root. It burns your tongue just slightly, and for a moment you regret your boldness. But then the flavor deepens, softens, becomes strangely comforting. You chew slowly, grateful for shade and silence. A passing trader glances at you and laughs lightly, perhaps amused by your clumsy handling of the food. You laugh too, because truly, what else can you do? Beyond the market's center, you spot a large mural painted along with stone wall reds, blacks and ochres forming scenes of warriors, merchants, gods, and jaguars. You step closer, drawn in by the detail. One figure holds a bundle of cacao beans. Toward the heavens, another kneels, his head bowed before a tree. The symbolism escapes you, but the reverence is unmistakable. Someone nearby murmurs a word, Yakshi. Later you'll learn it's the sacred ceiba tree, the axis of the world in Maya cosmology. But right now, all you can do is stare and wonder how every object here seems to carry meaning heavier than its weight. Suddenly, there's movement behind you. A group of men in long tunics strides past, carrying bundles wrapped in jaguar pelts. They speak quickly to a stall owner, gesturing toward feathers dyed in brilliant turquoise and crimson. These aren't regular traders. You sense it. The air shifts when they arrive. Even the surrounding chatter dips, just slightly. Later, your guide will tell you they serve a noble household, perhaps even priests. The market isn't just for daily life, it's a stage, a battlefield, and a court, all at once. And in this swirl of activity, you realize something else. The marketplace isn't chaotic. Not really. It's a living organism, pulsing with breath and rhythm you simply haven't yet learned to hear. Its patterns are invisible to you now, but not to them. The women measuring fabric with their fingers, the boys bartering stone tools, the elders nodding at one another as silent transactions pass. This is not disorder. It's choreography. Eventually, you make your way toward the edge of the square, your pouch now half empty, and your mind full of names, sounds, and scents you'll struggle to recall. You sit on a low stone bench shaded by woven reed mats, the taste of chili still tingling on your lips. And for the first time today, you feel not like a visitor, but a witness. You're not blending in, not yet, but you're beginning to see as you watch a woman teach her daughter to weigh cacao beans with a palm leaf. You can't help but marvel. This economy, so tactile, so personal, has none of the abstraction of credit cards and bank apps. Here, every bean is counted, every cloth examined, every trade a conversation. It's exhausting, but it's real. You close your eyes briefly, letting the drumbeat and voices become background noise. The air hums gently around you, and in this moment of stillness, you think maybe, just maybe, you're starting to understand what it means to truly be part of a world like this. The sun is now high overhead, and the shadows have pulled tightly under rooftops and tree canopies. Your tunic clings to your back, damp with sweat. There's no escaping the heat, not here. And so, when someone gestures for you to follow them, toward a shaded grove on the edge of the village, you accept without hesitation, grateful for even a few degrees of relief. You don't yet know what's ahead, only that you're being invited into something rare, and perhaps sacred. As you approach, the grove opens into a circular clearing lined with stones and bundles of herbs. Smoke curls gently from a low altar. At the center, around it, villagers sit cross-legged in quiet anticipation, their eyes focused on the man at the altar, a figure draped in richly woven fabric, with strings of shells and beads around his neck. His hair is long and oiled, his gaze steady and unreadable. You've been brought to witness a ritual, though no one explains the purpose. Maybe it's better that way. The man's voice is low but powerful, and though you don't understand the words, the cadence reaches you. He chants steadily, drawing shapes into the ashes with a carved wooden stick. Others join him, harmonizing in strange, rising intervals that seem to vibrate in your chest. The smoke thickens as bundles of resin, and crushed leaves are tossed into the fire. The scent is pungent and sweet, like burnt sap and rain-soaked bark. You resist the urge to cough, choosing instead to breathe through your nose and let the smell settle inside you like incense in a stone temple. A young boy approaches, holding a bundle wrapped in dyed cloth. He walks solemnly to the altar and kneels, laying the bundle in the ashes. It's not a sacrifice of flesh or blood, at least not today, but a carefully arranged offering of maize, feathers, and jaguar teeth. You've heard rumors of more violent rites, but in this moment, everything is quiet, reverent, and gentle. The idea that all Maya rituals were brutal bloodlettings begins to unravel. Historians still debate how often human sacrifices occurred, and whether they were widespread or reserved for specific celestial events. Watching now, you suspect the truth is far more nuanced than what most textbooks suggest. A sudden gust of wind stirs the trees, sending dappled light flickering across the circle like starlight. The shaman pauses, raising his eyes to the canopy. You follow his gaze instinctively, though you see nothing but birds flitting between branches. Then he speaks a single word, clear, distinct, and echoed by the group. Silence follows. The ritual is complete. Everyone stands. There are no claps, no fanfare. Only a quiet dispersal, as if the ritual's energy has been absorbed by the very earth itself. You rise too, your legs stiff from kneeling. Someone places a warm hand on your shoulder, a gesture of welcome, perhaps, or a gentle reminder that you're not just observing anymore. You're participating in your own quiet way. Follow the others back through the grove, your footsteps muffled by fallen leaves. A woman beside you explains in halting phrases that the ritual was for rain, not for the coming day, but for the next cycle, the next planting. The Maya live according to calendars within calendars. The solar Hab, the sacred Sokean, and the long count that maps out epochs across thousands of years. You nod slowly, though your head spins with unfamiliar terms. Even the passage of time here feels different, less linear, more like an echo that circles back on itself. You emerge from the trees into full sunlight again, blinking as your eyes adjust. Villagers continue their day as if nothing happened. Children chase each other with sticks. Women carry bundles of dyed yarn. A man sharpens a stone blade by dragging it across a grinding stone with rhythmic care. And you, still vibrating with the rhythm of that chant, suddenly realize you have no idea what time it is. Not by your world's measure, at least. Your wrist is bare, no watch, no phone. Just the sun, the sky, and the shadows on the ground dot. A nearby hut, a woman beckons you inside. You duck through the low doorway and find a small circle of people seated around a fire pit. In the center sits a pot bubbling with dark, thick liquid. It smells of bitter chocolate and roasted chili. The woman stirs it slowly, then dips a ladle into the pot and pours the liquid into a small clay cup. She hands it to you with both hands. You accept, uncertain not you sip. It's not sweet, not even close. The bitterness shocks you at first, but then it opens into something richer, earthy, spicy, smoky. You've just tasted zocoladle, the ceremonial cacao drink the Maya held sacred. No milk, no sugar, just roasted ground beans, water, and spices. It wakes you up, but not like coffee, more like a warning. A grounding, a tether to the soil beneath your feet. The woman smiles and says a word you recognize now, cacao. You nod, and repeat it, more confident this time. She laughs softly and hands you a second cup. You drink slower this time, letting the flavors settle into your mouth like stories spoken through centuries. The fire crackles. Someone hums quietly, and for a moment, everything feels suspended. This is not just history. By the time the midday heat begins to settle into your bones, you're offered a task one that sounds simple enough at first. You're going to spend the afternoon as a no-paro, a Maya farmer. Your mission: learn how to grow the food that sustains this entire civilization. You agree, perhaps a bit too quickly, still riding the quiet energy of morning rituals and bitter cacao. You tell yourself it can't be that hard. It's just farming. People have done it for thousands of years. You'll be fine. The fields lie beyond the forest's edge, tucked between hills where the canopy thins and the sun dominates without mercy. You follow a narrow path behind a group of men and women carrying tools. Not metal, of course, but wooden. Digging sticks, stone-edged hoes, and baskets woven from vines. The air grows heavier with every step. Cicadas hum in a high-pitched wave. Somewhere nearby, monkeys bark out warnings, and the leaves above you twitch with unseen motion. Eventually, the trees open into a clearing, revealing a patch of cultivated land lined with rows of maize-tall, vibrant, and still green. This is no modern monoculture. Between the corn are beans climbing their stalks and squash vines spreading low and broad across the ground. It's the Three Sisters method, something agricultural historians still admire for its elegance and efficiency. You've read about it? Now you're ankle-deep in it. Someone hands you a sharpened stick and points to an empty spot of soil. You begin to dig, mimicking the practiced motion of the others. The soil resists you, compact and dry from the morning sun, and you're soft. Hands blister quickly. The man beside you works with fluid grace, plunging his tool in and pulling it out like a dance. You try to match his rhythm, but your arms already feel like wet cloth. Sweat pours into your eyes. Your back aches. You lose count of how many holes. You've dug 6, 7, and then someone points to a bundle of seeds and makes a gesture. 2 in each hole, covered loosely, no more than a few finger widths deep. You nod. You can do that. That part, at least, is within your skill set. As you move down the row, your movements become more mechanical. The heat presses down harder now, like a second body sitting on your shoulders. The smell of soil clings to your skin, earthy and sharp. Bees buzz close to your ears. Flies land on your arms without shame. You stop brushing them away. The man next to you starts humming. The tune is simple, wordless, but steady a rhythm for the work. Others join in, and before long, the entire row of workers moves to the same quiet cadence. You hum too, unsure of the notes, but grateful for the way it makes the afternoon pass. A young girl, no older than 10, offers you a cup of tamarind water. It's sour, cold, and startlingly refreshing. You drink greedily, the liquid washing the dust from your tongue and the tension from your jaw. She grins and holds out a woven cloth. You hesitate, but then realize it's for wiping your face. You take it with a nod, trying not to look too desperate. Later, you're shown how to build a mound for planting, using a curved stick and your bare hands. You dig, pile, pat, again and again. The act becomes almost meditative. Your breath slows. Your thoughts blur. You find yourself wondering what season it is, and then realize the Maya don't think in seasons like you do. They think in cycles rainy and dry, planting and harvesting, life and death. Circles, not lines, dot as the afternoon wanes. Clouds gather above the canopy. Not dark, not yet, but heavy enough to cast shadows across the field. Someone points upward and makes a remark about Chak the rain god. You recall seeing his likeness in a mural earlier. Wide eyes, a curling snout, and lightning in his clenched fists. The Maya believed Chak lived in caves and cenotes, that he carried water in giant gourds and smashed them open to make the rain fall. Whether you believe it or not, you find yourself glancing up too, watching the sky, waiting that you finish your final row just as the wind picks up. A welcome breeze, finally. The air smells like wet leaves and coming storms. The others begin gathering. Tools, tying up baskets, brushing loose soil from their arms. No one complains. No one hurries. It's just part of the day, as natural as the sweat on your brow. Walking back, you pass a row of plants unlike the rest. Tall stalks with thick leaves, capped with red and white blossoms. One of your companions touches a leaf gently and says, something about medicine. You pause to look closer, your fingers brushing the soft green. Is it a fever remedy? Something for stings? The answer is lost in translation, but the reverence in their voice is not. Here, the plants are not just food, they are pharmacy, poetry, ancestors. Back in the village, you return your digging stick, fingers raw and palms stained. Your arms feel like they're filled with sand. And yet, there's a small smile tugging at your mouth. You've done something real, something ancient, something that will, in time, become food for someone else. Inside your hut, you lie down briefly on your mat, the smell of soil still clinging to your skin. Your eyelids flutter. You don't fall asleep. Not quite, but for a few minutes, you drift. A half-dream, filled with dirt and leaves and soft humming. And somewhere deep in your chest, you feel it. You awake not to the sound of a bell or alarm, but to a sharp rhythmic thudding. It takes a moment to reorient yourself, to remember you're still lying on a mat inside a Maya village, and that the day is far from over. The noise continues dull. Thumps punctuated by cheers and the occasional echoing call of a conch shell. You rise, stretch your aching limbs, and follow the sound, your curiosity overriding the weight in your legs. The path leads to a wide court made of smooth, compacted earth, bordered by two sloping stone walls. Above, the sky is a brilliant blue, cloudless and unforgiving. The court itself feels like an arena. You take a seat beneath a shaded awning of woven reeds, and quickly understand, this is no ordinary game. This is Pok to Pok, the sacred ball game. Of the Maya, two teams are already assembled, each wearing padded garments and wide belts lined with cloth and bark. The players are wiry, intense, their muscles taut with tension. A rubber ball lies at the center, dense, heavy, and bouncing far less than you expected. Someone strikes a conch shell again, and the game begins with a burst of movement. The rules aren't immediately clear, but you catch on quickly enough. The players may not use their hands. They hit the ball with their hips, elbows, and knees, trying to pass it through a stone ring high on the wall. The effort required is staggering. You watch a player leap sideways and twist midair, slamming his hip into the ball with a crack loud enough to make you flinch. It rebounds off the wall, spinning wildly, and the crowd gasps. You lean forward, eyes wide. The players don't stop. They sprint, dive, roll across the court, their bodies coated in dust and sweat. The game is beautiful and brutal, a dance and a duel rolled into one. Your heartbeat matches the rhythm of their steps. Each movement feels mythic, ritualistic, as though it serves some higher purpose beyond scoring points. A child next to you offers a handful of roasted maize and begins to explain, haltingly, that Pok to Pok isn't just sport. It's ceremony. Some say it mirrors the cosmic battle between night and day, life and death. You nod slowly, absorbing every word. Historians still debate whether the losing team or even the winners were ever sacrificed, or whether that's more legend than fact. Still, watching the intensity of play. It's clear this is not just for fun. A player collapses near the sideline, clutching his shoulder. No one rushes to help, not immediately. Instead, the referee, an elder with a serpent staff, signals. A pause. The crowd murmurs, but no one panics. Injuries seem expected. A moment later, the player rises, grits his teeth, and resumes. Applause ripples through the court. You find yourself clapping too, though you're unsure if it's for his bravery, or simply the relief that he can continue. During a break, someone gestures for you to step onto the court. You laugh, assuming it's a joke, but the invitation is serious. With hesitant steps, you walk out into the light. The ball is passed to you. It's heavier than it looks, thick and dense, with the faint smell of resin. You try to bounce it. It barely lifts off the ground. You attempt a clumsy swing of your hip. It thuds against your side and rolls nowhere useful. The crowd laughs, not cruelly, but with affection. One of the players walks over and shows you how to position your stance. You try again. This time you make contact. The ball wobbles off to the side, but it moves. They cheer. You bow awkwardly and shuffle back to the shade, cheeks warm with embarrassment and something like pride. When the game resumes, the pace increases. Dust swirls in the sunlight. Someone scores, and a roar erupts. You don't fully understand the scoring, but the mood shifts instantly. The conch shell sounds again. The match is over. The players line up, touching foreheads briefly, an act of mutual respect. As they leave the court, one of the older players approaches and presses something into your palm. It's a small carved figurine, worn smooth by touch. A jaguar, perhaps. You nod in thanks, unsure what it means, but understanding. Enough to feel honored. Later, as the crowd disperses, you remain seated under the shade. The energy lingers, vibrating faintly in the air, like an echo. You think of modern sports stadiums, uniforms, scoreboards, and how this somehow feels more ancient and more alive. Here, movement is meaning. Effort is devotion. You look down at the figurine in your hand and trace its curves with your thumb. You wonder if the gods watched this match, if the rhythm of feet on stone pleased them. You wonder, too, what it would take to play like that, to be part of that story, that ritual, that endless dance between sky and stone. The sun is lower now, slanting shadows across the court. You rise slowly, brush the dust from your legs, and begin the walk back to the village. Every step carries the weight of the ball, the cheers. As the orange tint of late afternoon begins to stretch long shadows across the village paths, you're led by a small group of workers toward a rising slope beyond the settlement. The air has changed cooler now, but still heavy with the scent of wood smoke and sweat. You're told you're going to help with a construction site, and you nod without hesitation, though part of you wonders what exactly you'll be building. A hut? A wall? A storage shed, perhaps? It turns out you'll be helping with something far more ambitious. A pyramid. Your first glimpse of it leaves you breathless, not because of its grandeur, but because of its raw, unfinished form. The base is already massive, a sloping mountain of cut limestone blocks stacked with uncanny precision. The top is still skeletal, surrounded by bamboo scaffolding lashed with twine. Workers, dozens of them, move like ants across the surface, hauling, carving, and lifting with methodical grace. You blink, astonished. This isn't just construction. This is choreography on a monumental scale. One of the supervisors, his skin, bronzed and glistening, hands you a wide wooden sled and gestures toward a pile of stones. They're roughly the size of a small suitcase, pale and chalky, each one weighing more than you care to estimate. You try lifting one. It shifts, barely. He grins, amused, and gestures again. use the sled. So, you heave the stone onto the sled, grip the woven rope, and begin pulling. The rope bites into your palms. Your feet slide on the dust-packed slope. The sled drags reluctantly across the rough ground, each step forward feeling like a silent negotiation with gravity. You pass other workers, some younger than you, some older, all moving with the kind of ease that comes from doing this every day. You keep going, jaw clenched, refusing to quit. The stone, unmoved by your pride, does not become lighter. When you finally reach the work platform, your arms are jelly. The workers greet your arrival with mild applause, half appreciation, half amusement. One of them offers you a small clay cup filled with a gritty liquid. It's made from fermented maize, slightly sour, almost fizzy. It's called chicha, and it tastes like effort. You drink it all. Next, you're handed a chisel stone against stone and shown how to smooth the surface of a block. No power tools. Here, of course, just rhythm and patience. You kneel and begin tapping, scraping the edge to form a cleaner angle. It's tedious work, and every flake of stone feels like a small defiance of time itself. Around you, chants drift in from different work crews. Some sing softly, not for entertainment, but to keep pace. The syllables loop again and again, forming a rhythm that drives the chisels, hammers, and footsteps. There's no shouting, no barking orders, just steady work and shared breath. And through the monotony, something strange happens. Your thoughts quiet. You find yourself wondering not just how these pyramids were built, but why. Was it purely religious? Did it serve an astronomical purpose? Historians still argue. Some believe the temples aligned with celestial events, the solstices, the movements of Venus. Others suggest political theater, a way for rulers to display divine authority. As you chip away at the stone, the truth feels distant and unreachable, yet utterly present beneath your fingertips. You pause, stretch your aching shoulders, and glance up at the structure's edge. From here, you can see the jungle canopy stretching endlessly beyond the village. Mist coils in the distance. Birds wheel in the sky. Somewhere far below, you hear laughter or maybe a conch shell. The entire world feels balanced on this rising. Platform stone by stone, hand by hand. A young man beside you says something in Maya you don't quite catch. Then he taps his chest and points to the stone. You realize he's saying this block, this exact one, will still be here long after both of you are gone. It's a simple thought, but it lands with surprising weight. You nod, not because you fully understand, but because you feel it. Permanence, carved by the IMPERMANT dot as evening nears. You help haul one last sled up the ramp. Your legs are rubber, your shirt clings to your back, and your hands are covered in powdery white dust. The sunset splashes red light across the pyramid's face, turning every stone gold for a brief, brilliant moment. You stand there, breathless, surrounded by quiet pride and the whisper of ancient ambition. You descend the slope slowly, careful, not to trip. At the bottom, someone hands you a clean cloth and a bowl of water. You wipe your face, feeling layers of fatigue slide off with the grime. There's no need for words. Just nods, glances, a shared respect as you walk back to the village in silence. The last light fading behind you, one thought lingers like a steady heartbeat. This place was never primitive. It was powerful, intentional, alive. And today, even. The air the next morning is heavier, cooler, and tinged with the scent of wet leaves. It rained in the early hours, a soft, steady drizzle that has left the village paths darkened and the forest alive with steam. You're invited to join a small group setting out beyond the maize fields, past the edge of the cultivated world and into the jungle proper. The task today isn't building or planting, it's searching. For medicine, your guide is a woman well into her 50s, though her back is straight, her steps swift. She carries a long wooden staff and wears a pouch strung with cords across her shoulder. You trail behind her and two younger apprentices as they step into the undergrowth. The village fades behind you in minutes, swallowed by a world that hums and chirps and rustles with a voice entirely its own. The path, if it can be called that, is narrow and slick with dew. Vines hang low, sometimes brushing your face. Insects hover near your ears, drawn to your heat and sweat. Every so often, your guide stops and gestures silently to a plant or leaf. She murmurs its name in Maya, sometimes describing what it heals, sometimes simply running her fingers along its edges, like greeting an old friend out at first. You can barely keep up. The plants blur together, so many shades of green, so many textures. Some leaves are glossy and wide like fans, others serrated and stiff, still others speckled with tiny yellow flowers that give off a faint citrus scent when crushed. You try to remember names, but they slip through your fingers like water. One plant helps with fevers, another calms the stomach, and yet another is used in rituals to cleanse grief. The jungle is not just a forest here. It's a library, a pharmacy, a sacred place of memory. You stop beneath a massive ceiba tree, yaxchi, its roots thick as walls, twisting above ground like a frozen river. Your guide rests her hand on its bark and closes her eyes briefly. The apprentices lower their voices. This is the tree of life in Maya cosmology, the link between the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. You feel a strange stillness here, a gravity that presses gently against your chest. The ceiba isn't just a tree, it's an ancestor. A bridge. Suddenly, your guide crouches, motioning for silence. She parts a thick mat of underbrush to reveal a low plant with pale purple flowers and tiny thorn-like spurs. She carefully snips a few stems, placing them in a pouch made from dried gourds. She says it helps relieve childbirth pain, but only when brewed just right too strong, and it will make the heart race. You realize again how precise this knowledge must be, how many generations it took to get it right, and how fragile it would be to lose it. The group presses deeper. You cross a shallow creek, your feet slipping on algae-slick stones. The air smells of moss and cinnamon bark. Monkeys hoot in the canopy overhead, unseen but loud, while a toucan flashes past in a blur of black and orange. Everything in the jungle moves with confidence. You, less so. You step wrong once, grabbing a branch for balance, only to find it covered in ants. They bite without mercy. You flinch and shake your hand, embarrassed. One of the apprentices smirks, gently, and hands you a paste of crushed leaves. You apply it, and the sting fades almost instantly. Later, the group stops near a small rocky ledge, where water seeps from the stone in tiny, glittering rivulets. Moss blankets the rocks, and mushrooms cluster like little parasols. Your guide points to a cluster of pale, waxy fungi. She doesn't touch them. For the dead, she says in halting Spanish. You don't ask more. Some plants, it seems, are meant only for the spirit world. On the walk back, your pack is heavier, filled with wrapped bundles of roots, stems, and powders, each one labeled with a carved symbol on bark paper. Your arms ache, but your mind hums. You feel as though you've been walking through a living manuscript, one where the knowledge is not printed but growing, blooming, waiting to be recognized. Historians continue to debate how much of Maya medicine was science and how much was ritual. Some say their healers, aged men, were early pharmacologists. Others insist their knowledge was guided more by dreams and spirit visions. But watching your guide move through the jungle, confident and precise, it's clear the two were never separate. Here, Science and spirit are one dot as you re-enter the village. The scents shift: smoke, maize, salt, and sweat rejoin your senses. You pass by the small temple again, its stone now warm beneath the setting sun. Your guide says nothing. As she unloads her pack, she simply nods to you and walks away, her shadow stretching long behind her. You sit beneath the ceiba tree, a leaf still clinging to your damp sleeve. The air is thick with the smell of crushed herbs. You breathe deeply, letting the wildness of the jungle settle into your lungs. And you realize that survival here doesn't mean overpowering nature. It means understanding it, respecting it, listening when it whispers dot in the Maya world. Healing doesn't come from dominance. It comes from knowing where to step, what to touch, and when to be still. As twilight draws closer and the air grows softer, you're invited into a home unlike any other you've seen in the village so far. It belongs to a family of artisans, craftspeople who specialize in ceramics, a cornerstone of Maya daily life and ritual alike. The hut is tucked behind a low wall of stones and flowering vines, its interior warm and glowing from a central hearth. The smell of wet clay and wood smoke greets you at the threshold, grounding and oddly comforting. You're greeted with smiles and soft nods. A woman, hands stained deep red from powdered pigments, beckons you forward and shows you where to sit on. A woven reed mat near a low table where half-formed vessels rest like sleeping creatures. Bowls, jars, incense burners, all in various stages of becoming. Some are smooth and simple. Others are intricate, carved with twisting serpents and glyphs you can't even begin to understand. You reach out to touch one, and the surface is still cool, slightly moist. A live dot, she places a lump of raw clay in your hands. It's heavier than you expect, dense and sticky. She demonstrates how to roll it between your palms, how to shape it slowly, not by forcing, but by coaxing. The clay resists your movements at first, cracking slightly at the edges. You pause, unsure if you've already ruined it, but she gently guides your hands, showing you how to press with your thumbs, rotate with your wrists. Her touch is patient, her breath calm. You follow suit. The work is quiet, almost meditative. Outside, the sounds of the village fade into the low crackle of the fire and the soft rhythm of palms slapping clay. You focus on the feel, the way it sticks, then yields, the tiny adjustments it demands. Around you, children mimic the shapes of animals. A boy forms a jaguar. A girl crafts a turtle with a shell so detailed you marvel at her fingers. You manage something bow-like, wobbly, but whole. You're proud of it anyway, dot as your piece begins to take form. The woman leans over and presses her finger into the bottom, marking it with a simple swirl, a signature. She gestures for you to do the same. You press your fingertip into the clay and leave a mark that is unmistakably yours, however unfamiliar the world around you may be. That small act marking your work feels more powerful than you expected. Later, she adds colored slip to a piece of her own, painting designs with a brush made from animal hair. She mixes red from crushed cochineal, black from soot, and yellow from ground seeds. The brush strokes are delicate, precise. The motifs speak in a language you don't know. Stylized gods, spirals of time, symbols for maize, stars, water. She pauses once to explain one glyph Kea will, the lightning god, often shown emerging from a serpent's brow. His presence on a bowl marks it for ritual, not daily use. You ask slowly if she dreams of these designs or learns them. She answers both. Dreams are important. Some artists dream a vessel before they ever touch the clay. Others are taught through repetition, generation after generation. In her family, the designs stretch back farther than anyone remembers. We don't make things, she says through her son's translation. We remember them. You sit in silence, letting those words root inside you. Around the fire, Others are carving figures, small effigies with wide eyes and open mouths. You recognize one from earlier, a toad god associated with rain. Another seems half bird, half human. You begin to understand that in Maya cosmology, the boundaries between human and animal, between object and spirit, were never fixed. Everything is connected. Everything has breath. Historians often debate whether these artisan traditions were centralized or household-based. Some say elite families controlled the finest workshops. Others argue that village production was widespread and sacred in its own right. Here, watching this woman paint a jaguar's eye with a single stroke, you stop caring about the academic disagreement. It doesn't matter. What matters is that someone made this with care, with story, with hands just like yours. When the fire burns low, the woman sets your bowl aside to dry slowly. It won't be fired tonight that comes later, but it will harden under the watchful glow of the hearth. She smiles as she places it next to her own work. And there, among centuries of tradition, your small, lopsided bowl sits quietly, waiting to become permanent dot as you leave. Your hands are stained with clay, your fingernails, packed with the earth of another world. You don't wipe it off. Not yet. You walk slowly, letting the cool night air dry the remnants of creation onto your skin. Back in your hut, you rest your hands on your knees and feel the weight of the day. Not heavy, just full. You close your eyes, and for a moment you imagine yourself centuries ago, doing the same thing, shaping something from nothing, marking it, letting it tell your story. Morning arrives with a pale mist clinging to the trees and rooftops, the kind that softens every sound and blurs the line between sleep and waking. You step outside your hut, stretching beneath the slowly brightening sky. Today, you're guided toward a high terrace overlooking the village, an elevated platform built long ago, its stone steps worn smooth by generations of feet. Your task is not physical this time, but observational. You're about to enter the ancient world of Maya. Astronomy dot at the summit of the terrace sits a structure unlike the homes you've seen. Low, wide, with narrow doorways perfectly aligned with the rising and setting sun. Inside, it's dim and cool. A group of elders waits in silence, seated around a circular stone disk carved with intricate glyphs and images, moons, stars, serpents, and jaguars. They are astronomer priests, or Aegean, caretakers of calendars and interpreters of celestial rhythms. Their presence is not loud or dramatic. Instead, it radiates precision, patience, and a sense of quiet duty. One of them beckons you forward and hands you a polished obsidian shard. When held at the correct angle, it reflects a narrow shaft of sunlight coming through a small slit in the wall. The light hits a specific mark on the floor. You realize it's intentional. The entire building is a solar observatory. And today, you are witnessing one of its alignments. Not a solstice, perhaps, but a smaller calibration that tells the keepers. What comes next? Rain, planting, or celebration? You sit, knees folded, watching the slow crawl of sunlight across stone. Minutes pass like water dripping into a still pool. You begin to understand why the Maya gave names to days and tracked Venus with such devotion. Here, time is not a line. It's a pattern. It loops, weaves, repeats. Past and future exist as echoes of each other. You remember reading that the Maya calendar has no end, only restarts. The infamous 2012 doomsday myth was never meant as an apocalypse. Just a page turning in an eternal book. A boy beside you, perhaps an apprentice, rolls out a long bark paper scroll covered in red and black glyphs. He points to a data cluster of symbols meaning 3 Cain 14 Kab. It's today. He traces a curved line downward, stopping at a tiny image of a maize god sprouting from the earth. The symbolism is obvious even to you. This day is fertile, lucky, a day for planting ideas or beginning journeys. You wonder what it means for you. The priest explains, through a translator, that the stars are more than just maps. They are memories. Each position holds a story, a warning, a promise. The Pleiades cluster? That marks a time when crops either thrive or fail. The planet Venus? A dangerous omen when it rises before dawn. Entire wars, they say, were once delayed or declared based on where Venus appeared in the sky. Historians still debate this, of course, some calling it coincidence, others reading political strategy. But sitting here, with sun and shadow playing across carved stone, it's hard not to believe that the sky truly speaks. Outside, the village stirs with its usual rhythm. Grinding, weaving, laughter, but up here, time moves differently. One elder steps forward, carrying a small bowl of ground pigment. He dips a finger into it and presses a red dot onto your forehead. It's a mark of observation, not belief, a gesture saying, "You have seen." You bow your head slightly, unsure what to say, so you say nothing. Just silence, which seems to be the appropriate language here. The apprentice rolls up the scroll, careful not to smudge the ink. The priests nod to one another and begin gathering. Small bundles of tools shells, polished bones, bits of jade used for ritual calculations. There are no telescopes here, no software. And yet, what they track is breathtakingly accurate. Eclipses, equinoxes. The Maya knew more than many gave them credit for, and some of their calculations especially involving Venus rival modern models. Not bad for a civilization with no metal tools and no alphabet in the Western sense. You descend the steps slowly, aware of how your breath catches at the sight of the village spread below, bathed in a golden haze. You think of time differently now, not as hours and minutes, but as pulses and patterns light returning to stone, shadow folding into earth, stories that orbit like moons. You pass a group of children playing near the foot of the platform, throwing pebbles at a ring-shaped target. One of them sees the dot on your forehead and points. The others giggle, then nod respectfully. Somehow, they know what it means. Back at your hut, you rest against the doorframe, still holding the obsidian shard. You angle it again toward the sunlight, watching as it briefly flashes, then dims. The moment is gone, but you were there. You saw, and the stars perhaps saw you too. The following morning greets you with a surprising chill. Mist drapes the village like gauze, softening the lines of every hut and tree. Today, you've been asked to run an errand simple in name, but complicated in practice. You're to deliver a carved message tablet to a neighboring village several kilometers away. The path winds through thick forest, across streams, and through low, rolling hills. This isn't a walk in the park. It's a ritual of trust. You meet your guide near the edge of the village. A young man with a sharp gaze and a jaguar tooth, pendant hanging from his neck. He's a messenger, or toll, part of a long tradition of footrunners who carry words where paper and ink cannot reach. The Maya didn't use beasts of burden, and their roads sakbib were built not for wheels, but for feet. You're about to find out what that truly means. The message itself is etched into a palm-sized piece of limestone, smooth and heavy. Its glyphs curl across the surface like vines. You're told the recipient will know how to read it. You, of course, can't decipher a single mark, but that doesn't matter. Your job is to carry, to observe, to survive the journey and return with a story. The two of you set out just as the mist begins to lift. The road is pale and chalky, raised slightly above the ground. A true sakb, made from compacted limestone and pointing in a perfectly straight line. There's no meandering here. These ancient highways were built with purpose, connecting sacred cities, temples, and shrines across vast distances dot it first. The pace is steady. Your companion moves easily, his feet finding rhythm on the uneven path, you less so. The humidity returns quickly, wrapping itself around your shoulders like a damp shawl. Sweat begins to bead at temples, and your legs remind you they're still sore from pyramid work. Still, you press on, driven by curiosity, pride, and the stubborn desire not to collapse before lunch dot as the trees close in around you. The sounds of the jungle shift. Birds call from the canopy, their voices strange and sudden. A rustle in the undergrowth makes you flinch, but your guide doesn't even look. He's seen it before. Probably a coati, maybe a snake. You stay close, every step a test of trust, both in him and in the path ahead. At one point, you stop by a small shrine nestled beneath a low stone arch. It's covered in moss and offerings, cacao beans, feathers, a half-burnt candle still faintly, fragrant with copal. Your guide dips his head respectfully. You mimic the gesture, though your understanding is still shallow. This shrine marks a crossing, he explains, where one road splits into three. Travelers pause here to ask for safe passage, not from gods, necessarily, but from the forest itself. You continue, and the road begins to rise. The incline is slight, but constant. Your breath grows shorter. The stone tablet grows heavier, or maybe your arms are simply tiring. Either way, you switch hands more frequently now, careful not to drop the message that means so much to someone you'll never meet. Finally, as the sun begins its slow descent, you spot a village in the distance smaller than yours, but with a familiar layout. Circular huts, smoke rising gently from cooking fires, children chasing each other in the dust. A woman approaches, recognizes your companion, and greets him with a smile. He introduces you not with words, but with a gesture. She studies your face, then the stone tablet, and accepts it with both hands. The transaction is silent, but significant. You're invited to rest. A bowl of tamarind juice is placed in your hands. You drink it gratefully, the sourness waking your mouth. There is food too: steamed squash, thick tortillas, a spicy paste that tingles pleasantly on your lips. You sit beneath an awning of leaves, your legs stretched, your heartbeat still echoing in your ears from the trail. The woman reads the tablet aloud, voice low and measured. The glyphs sound like music, like secrets given shape. You understand. None of it, but you feel the gravity of meaning pass between people. This wasn't just a message. It was a bridge. You sleep briefly in the warmth of a borrowed mat. No one asks questions. Hospitality here is woven into the rhythm of life. Before dawn, you and your guide begin the return journey, lighter now, though your feet still protest every step. The sky turns pink behind you as you walk, and the jungle opens slowly once more, like a curtain pulled back from a stage. Historians still argue over whether the Maya had a formal courier system like the Incas, or whether messengers worked within loose kin networks. But out here on the Sac, those arguments fade. You've seen what it means to carry meaning across the land, to become the living vehicle of thought, breath, intent. By the time you see your village again, the stone tablet is gone, but its weight remains in your muscles, your memory, and your understanding. You haven't just delivered a message. You've joined a lineage of movement, one that stretches far beyond your own time. And the road beneath your feet? Still waiting, still straight, still sacred. The village stirs slowly today. After the long journey, your legs ache, and your shoulders carry the faint throb of memory from the previous day's weight. But rest is not the plan. You're told there's one more task this time, ceremonial. A ritual involving music, masks, and something called wayab. You don't know the word, not yet, but you sense it's something deeper than just performance. You're led to the center of the village, where preparations are already underway. Wide, cleared circle has been swept smooth of stones. Bundles of dried maize stalks are arranged in a ring, and several people are adjusting a fabric canopy stretched above the performance area, casting soft, dappled shade over everything. The air is rich with wood smoke, flowers, and incense. You can almost taste it as you breathe. Nearby, artisans work quietly at a row of tables, finishing the final details on a collection of masks. Some are simple painted wood with carved eyes and painted lines to mimic animal features. Others are elaborate, snarling jaguar mouths, skeletal deer, and human-animal hybrids with swirling painted fur and feathers. You approach one mask that seems to stare back at you, its teeth too human, its expression caught between laughter and warning. Someone tells you it's a wayab, a spirit companion. In Maya belief, everyone has one. Sometimes it's an animal, sometimes something else. Sometimes it protects, sometimes it haunts. You're offered a costume. It's simple woven cloth, painted with swirling symbols in red and black, tied with cords around the waist and shoulders. The mask you're handed is smaller, carved into the shape of a bird with wide, searching eyes. It smells like pine and sweat. You hesitate. But then again, you've come this far. The performance begins with a single drum beat, low, slow, and deliberate. A second drum joins in, then flutes made from bone and reed. The music spirals, not rhythmic in the modern sense, but pulsing like breath. Dancers enter the circle, moving in measured steps, their masks bobbing and tilting. Some move like jaguars low, powerful, graceful. Others stagger like spirits pulled from sleep. And then there's laughter. One dancer plays the fool, his mask wide-mouthed, his movements awkward and exaggerated. The audience chuckles, even as he flails dangerously close to the fire pit. You're nudged forward gently. It's your turn. You step into the circle dot. First, you feel the weight of eyes, the awkwardness of your limbs. But then the music finds you. You move not well, not with grace, but with honesty. You mimic the bird your mask represents, sweeping your arms slowly, tilting your head, crouching, rising. The children giggle. An elder claps once, slowly, in time with your motion. The fire crackles. And then the drum changes. The pace quickens suddenly. All dancers are moving in circles, tracing invisible patterns into the earth. Your body remembers steps you've never learned. Maybe you're copying those around you. Maybe something deeper is guiding you. Either way, the rhythm swells, and for a moment, the world narrows. There is only this: feet striking earth, breath. Steaming in the dusk, masks gazing through time got at the dance's climax. Everyone stops at once, silent, still, like statues remembering how to breathe. Then comes the soft chant, a repetition of words you don't understand, yet feel in your chest. It's not a language made for translation. It's for returning something, for releasing. A prayer, perhaps, or a story the body must tell. Later, by the fire, you remove your mask. Your face is damp, flushed. No one speaks for a while. The flames pop softly, sending sparks into the night. One of the dancers sits beside you, offering a bowl of sweetened cacao. You drink slowly, letting the warmth settle your breath. You ask gently what wayab really means. The dancer replies after a pause. It's what walks beside you when you dream. You nod, not because you fully understand, but because something inside you does. Some scholars describe Maya ritual dances as reenactments of myth. Others say they were psychological tools, acts of personal transformation. And some argue they were simply stories made visible. But none of that captures what you felt out there. Under the mask, inside the circle, with dust beneath your feet and music in your spine, you weren't performing. You were becoming. The fire burns low. You press the mask to your chest before setting it gently down beside the others. It's not yours to keep, but the memory of what you saw through its eyes, that's something you carry now. Not like a lesson, like a shadow. You rise slowly, barefoot in the ash-streaked earth. The stars above shimmer faintly, and the jungle hums its ancient lullaby. Tonight, when you sleep, you wonder who or what might walk beside you. It's still dark when you wake, just a hint of silver slipping over the eastern treetops, the hush of the village unbroken, except for the low murmur of wind through leaves, and the occasional creak of wooden beams adjusting to the cool. Someone waits outside your hut, already alert, wrapped in a dark shawl. It's time, they whisper. Time to witness something few outsiders ever see. You follow them in silence, down winding paths now slick with dew. The village recedes behind you like a fading thought. A torch swings gently in your guide's hand, illuminating twisted roots and low stone walls almost swallowed by jungle. After some time, you see it a narrow crevice in a limestone outcrop, barely wide enough to walk through. This is the mouth of a cave, and not just any cave, but a sacred site. A gateway to the underworld. Shibalba, your guide lights another torch, hands it to you, and motions for you to stay close. The descent is steep, the air thick and cool, tinged with the scent of minerals and damp earth. Inside, the walls sweat, their surfaces glittering faintly with moisture. Bats flutter near the ceiling, their wings whispering like spirits brushing past your ears. The deeper you go, the more muffled the world becomes. Your breath grows louder. So does your heartbeat. You enter a chamber where the ceiling opens just enough to let in a sliver of early light, illuminating a circle of stone markers on the cave floor. These aren't random. Your guide gestures. Each represents a cardinal direction, a season, a sacred alignment. In the center, small offerings have been placed: obsidian flakes, shells, fragments of burned incense. It feels more like a memory than a space, like something waiting to be remembered. You're told this chamber was used not only for rituals, but for storing time. That's how your guide phrases it, storing time. Ceremonies marking eclipses, harvests, kings' births, endings, and beginnings. This cave, they explain, is a calendar in stone. The light that slips through the crack above only hits the center marker on specific days. Today is one of them. You crouch near the center and watch as the light shifts, just a single thread of brightness inching toward the carved stone. It touches it briefly, perfectly, then slips away. The moment is so precise, so fleeting, you question if you imagined it. But the others around you nod solemnly. It happened. You witnessed it. Historians still debate how the Maya used caves. Some argue they were purely religious. Others suggest they also stored offerings for agricultural or political power. But one thing is clear in this moment. The cave is not a place to escape the world. It's a place to speak with it, to mark it, to understand it more deeply. Further inside, the walls change. Petroglyphs emerge from the stone-worn, faint, but unmistakable. You recognize the outlines of figures you've seen before. The maize god, the water serpent, skeletal creatures that seem more curious than malevolent. Your guide runs a hand across one panel reverently, then begins a chant, low and rhythmic. Not loud, but enough to stir something in your chest. It's not a performance. It's a conversation with memory. You're invited to leave something behind. They hand you a small bundle, a bit of maize, a feather, a twist of cotton thread. You place it in a shallow depression in the rock, feeling self-conscious at first. But when your fingers touch the stone, you understand. It's not about the object. It's about intention, recognition, gratitude. You sit for a while in silence. The cave wraps around you, not cold, but watchful. The torches burn lower, casting long shadows across the stone floor. For a moment, you forget the outside world. Entirely. There is only earth, breath, and memory. Eventually, it's time to leave. You ascend slowly, your legs uncertain after so much stillness. Outside, the sky has turned pale gold. Birds sing the day awake. You blink against the light, emerging as if from a long, slow dream. Your guide says nothing. They don't need to. Back in the village, you're quiet. You move gently, speak softly. Everything feels sharper now, the edges of leaves, the heat of your tea, the roughness of the clay bowl in your hand. You've been to the place where the Maya said the world beneath touches the world above. And whether you believe in Xibalba or not, you can't deny what you felt down there. Not fear, not danger, stillness, reverence, time God, and now you carry a part of that stillness with you. The sun sits high and still when you return to the heart of the village. Today feels different, not heavier, not lighter, just quieter. Your tasks are minimal, yet you sense something waits beneath the surface of the day, like a current beneath calm water. You're summoned to the central plaza, where a few dozen villagers are gathered, seated in a wide circle beneath woven awnings. At the center lies something unexpected. A long, flat table covered in bark paper, pigment pots, carved quills, and what appears to be booklets folded, accordion-style manuscripts inked with ancient glyphs and images. You've entered the world of scribes. A middle-aged man steps forward, his tunic embroidered with bright jade threads. His fingers are stained with ink, his arms lined with faint burns and sunspots from long hours working over pigments and flame. He invites you to sit beside him and picks up one of the folded books codices. You recall they're called, and carefully opens it, revealing line after line of symbols and painted forms. Not just writing, illustration, storytelling, timekeeping, history. The Maya didn't use an alphabet, not as you know it. Their script is logosyllabica sophisticated, system of images that represent whole syllables or entire words, layered with meaning, sound, and symbolism. It's art and language fused into one. You can't read it, of course, but you can feel it. Somehow, he hands you a brush made from agave fibers. You hesitate. He smiles and dips it into a black pigment made from soot and tree sap. Gently, he guides your hand toward a piece of bark paper, pressing it into the fiber with a steadiness that makes your breath slow. Together, you draw a simple glyph, the symbol for day. A circle with a small dot at its center. You trace it, unsure, then again. And again. Slowly, something shifts. The act of writing is no longer about understanding every word. It's about entering a rhythm. Others around you do the same. Children learn beside elders. Women paint intricate scenes of crops being harvested, of deer chased through the hills, of gods rising from the maize. Each hand moves with calm precision. There is no rush, no frantic corrections. The ink flows as naturally as the stories behind it. You're shown another glyph, this one unfamiliar. Your guide explains haltingly that it refers to rebirth after fire. Not just literal, but symbolic. A season ending, a cycle restarting. You nod. It makes sense. So much of what you've seen here revolves around cycles, days, seasons, lifetimes. The Maya calendar isn't a straight path. It folds in on itself, like the books they write. You glance down the line at another scribe, etching what appears to be a jaguar swallowing the moon. Your guide murmurs that it marks an eclipse, an event once seen as both omen and opportunity. Historians still debate how much of Maya astronomy was myth versus mathematics. But here, those categories blur. The stars were both science and song. After a time, the table is cleared. The ink is capped. You're invited to watch a different kind of recording, oral storytelling. A young man steps forward, his hair braided with small jade beads. He carries no script, no scroll, only a gourd rattle, and a voice. As he begins, the plaza shifts. Children gather at the front. Elders lean in. His words paint images more vivid than any page. A sky cracked open by lightning gods, a corn maiden swallowed by the earth, a frog that swallows time and must be convinced to return it. You understand only fragments, but the rhythm carries you. The laughter, the pauses, the sudden inhaled gasp from the audience. These stories aren't just entertainment. They're history, cosmology, more wrapped in metaphor and humor. In one tale, a turtle tricks a snake by offering him an invisible meal. In another, a man climbs to the stars by playing a flute. So beautiful, it convinces the sky to open. And in one particularly absurd moment, a god accidentally invents chili peppers by sneezing into a cooking pot. The crowd howls with laughter. So do you. You realize something profound in that moment. While some cultures preserve their knowledge through permanence books, laws, monuments, the Maya do it through breath, repetition, ritual, memory passed from one mouth to another, like a sacred ember that never fully burns out. As the sun begins to lower, casting golden light across the plaza. You help roll the bark paper books and return the pigments to their sealed jars. The scribe takes your practice sheet and studies it. He smiles, not because it's good, but because it exists. A mark, a day recorded. You've written, however, simply inside a cycle that stretches back centuries. That night, you dream of symbols that shift like clouds, of ink that speaks, of paper that breathes when turned. You wake with the image of the rebirth after fire glyph still burning. In your mind, you wonder how many stories live in your own skin, waiting to be drawn out, not in words, but in rhythm, in image, in quiet repetition. The following day greets you with silence, not the absence of sound, but a hush that feels intentional, as if the village itself has chosen to speak more quietly. You're approached just after breakfast by a man with a long walking stick and a necklace of dried gourds that rattle softly when he moves. His hair is streaked with gray, his movements slow but deliberate. You're going to learn about healing today, not the forest medicine you saw earlier, but something subtler, spiritual, cleansing. You follow him beyond the village, past a grove of ceiba trees, to a structure half hidden by vines. It's low to the ground, built from stone and earth, its entrance narrow and round like the mouth of a burrow. It's a Temescala sweat lodge, used not only for health, but for rebirth. You duck inside and immediately feel the weight of darkness, and warmth settle around your shoulders like a cloak. The space is small, womb-like. 4 other people sit in a circle on woven mats. In the center, a pit of stones glows faintly, still warm from a previous fire. Your guide tosses a bundle of herbs onto the stones: chili, sage, cacao husks. The scent hits instantly, sharp and earthy. He ladles water over them, and steam rises in thick, rolling waves. You close your eyes as heat wraps around you, seeping into your muscles, loosening joints, thoughts, old aches. Someone begins to chant. The rhythm is soft, steady, more breath. Then melody. You sit unmoving, letting your body become a container for warmth and memory. Sweat trickles down your spine. Your breath deepens, and you start to feel strangely light, as if something is leaving you. The guide speaks between chants. He talks of Ixchel, goddess of midwives and healing, of Chak, the storm deity, and of how the body holds stories that must be coaxed out, not erased, but honored, released. He speaks of grief lodged in the gut, of fear coiled behind the eyes, of shame that rests in the ribs. You don't fully understand the words, but you feel the meaning in your bones. You are asked to speak God at first. Your voice falters. You don't know what to say. But then, you speak not in answers, but in fragments, sensations, memories, questions that have lingered longer than they should. No one responds. No one judges. The silence is not emptiness. It's listening, more water, more steam. You feel dizzy, then clear. The herbs change. This time, there's sweet maybe honey, maybe crushed flowers. You smell rain, jungle, and childhood all at once. You forget how long you've been inside. It could be minutes or hours. Time here is as slippery as the steam itself. Finally, the guide stands and gestures toward the entrance. You crawl out into the light. The air outside is cool, shockingly so. You inhale deeply, your lungs grateful, your skin tingling as sweat cools against the breeze. You sit on a stone, blinking at the colors, the way the trees look greener, the sky wider, your own hands more alive. Someone places a bowl of tamarind water in your lap. You sip slowly, letting the tartness anchor you. Later, you learn that Temescal ceremonies were used by warriors before battle, by mothers before birth, by elders preparing for death. It was not simply for sweat. It was for clarity, for transition. Historians argue about whether these rituals were medicinal or symbolic. The Maya, of course, saw no separation docked in the afternoon. You're brought to a healer's hut at the edge of the village. Inside, bundles of dried herbs hang from the rafters, and small clay jars line the walls each, labeled with glyphs indicating use, season, or origin. The healer, an older woman with silver braids, smiles and beckons you closer. She takes your wrist gently and closes her eyes. Her thumb presses your pulse. Her other hand hovers over your chest, your stomach, your head. She doesn't ask you what's wrong. She simply listens. Not with ears, but with hands. Then she mixes a paste from ground seeds and honey, dabs it onto your temples, your palms, your soles. It smells like pine and something faintly floral. She mutters quietly, not to you, but to the mixture itself. It's not a spell. It's a conversation. A request dot as you sit with the paste soaking into your skin. She tells you stories. One about a hummingbird who healed a mountain by singing to its roots. Another about a tree that cried sap for the first human's broken heart. You close your eyes, the stories threading into your breath. Somewhere a child laughs. A fire crackles. The world, for once, feels entirely at peace. That evening, as the sun slides behind the hills, you sit by your hut and watch the sky change color. Your skin still tingles. Your chest feels lighter, not because a miracle has occurred, but because something unspoken has finally been heard. Healing in this world isn't about erasing pain. It's about recognizing it, naming it, and letting it move. The Maya don't divide body and spirit. They acknowledge the quiet places where the two meet, and in those places they listen. And now you do too. Your final full day arrives not with urgency, but with a stillness that feels ceremonial. No one knocks on your hut. No one beckons. The morning belongs to you. You stretch beneath the woven ceiling, gaze up at its sunlit pattern, and let the quiet settle into your bones like warm stone. Outside, the village hums softly, not with work, but with preparation. Something is coming. You don't yet know what, but you feel it in the air, the way the wind moves slower, the way voices are low but purposeful. You wander through the paths you now know by instinct, past the grindstone where women press maize into dough, past the small pond where children splash and mimic frogs, past the outer ring of homes where the jungle begins to reclaim space. There, a boy greets you and gestures with a knowing smile. You follow Dot at the village edge. A tall wooden structure is being erected. It resembles a scaffold, but decorated draped with woven fabrics dyed in reds, yellows, and greens. Palm fronds and strings of feathers hang from its beams. At the center is a tall pole rising skyward. A group of men secure its base with ropes, while others dig post holes or prepare clay incense burners. You're told this is for the voladores, the flyers. A dance, a rite, a farewell. Not a daily event, but a ceremonial offering to the gods, especially those of wind, fertility, and sky. Your heart stirs with anticipation and something else, a gentle sadness. You know this means your time here is drawing to a close dot. An elder woman approaches and places a sash around your shoulders. It's simple but hand-dyed, its pattern subtle but familiar. You recognize glyphs you've seen on pottery, on murals, even in dreams. Maize, sun, water, breath. She nods, not with farewell, but with blessing. The ceremony begins in the late afternoon. The entire village gathers near the pole, seated in loose concentric circles. Smoke from incense burners curls skyward, carrying the scent of pine resin, cacao husks, and crushed flowers. A drum beats slowly. Doom, 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 and four dancers approach the pole. Each wears a headdress adorned with feathers, so long they sway with the wind. They carry flutes and drums of their own. Their faces are painted, jaguar spots, serpent eyes, wind markings across their cheeks and brows. One climbs the pole. Not quickly, not nervously. He ascends with the confidence of someone climbing memory. The crowd watches in silence. Once at the top, he sits on a rotating crossbar affixed to the peak, along with three others. Then, with a breath, they lean. Back dot and fall dot, the ropes around their waists unwind slowly as they spiral downward. Arms open, spinning like leaves caught in the wind. The movement is hypnotic slow, suspended, sacred. Each rotation is precise, controlled. They spiral 13 times each, representing the sacred numbers of the calendar. 52 in total, the full cycle of time, the full turning of the sun. Across seasons. You count the loops without realizing it, your breath matching their descent. Historians often debate whether the Volador's tradition began with the Maya or with their northern neighbors, the Totnak. Arguments are made, sources cited. But in this moment, none of that matters. The dance is real. It's happening now. And it binds you to something older than pages and older than maps. As the last dancer reaches the ground, the final drumbeat lands. Like an exhale. The crowd applauds not with wild cheers, but with soft, sustained clapping, palms meeting like prayer. You join them, your hands tingling. After the ceremony, food is shared beneath the trees. You sit beside families you've come to know, even without speaking the same language. Bowls of stew, toasted maize, roasted squash, cacao drinks. The laughter is low, the mood warm. A child places a crown of woven vines on your head. You wear it without question. Later, someone asks what you've learned. You pause, then answer not in grand declarations, but in small truths. That the past is not dead. That language can live in gesture and breath. That time does not only move forward, that maze has a spirit. That healing is a rhythm. That stories are the soft engines of culture. And that history, when lived, is not boring at all. It's alive, demanding, gentle, terrifying, sacred. As the sky turns violet and the first stars blink into being, you walk back to your hut one final time. Your mat waits for you, your bowl of water, the sound of the forest beyond. You lie down, press a palm to your chest, and let your breath match the rhythm of this place. You made it. One full day. Asterisk, and now, as the village recedes from view quiet, steady, dreamlike, you carry the weight of everything you saw and heard and felt, but not as a burden, as warmth. As a slow-burning ember, nestled where memory meets meaning. The light dims gently now. The drums have faded. The clay has cooled. The steam has lifted from your skin. The leaves no longer rustle with tasks, but with rest. The wind no longer urges your feet forward. It brushes your cheek like a mother's hand, saying softly, "Enough for today." You remember the shape of the cliff you painted, the scent of wet bark in the cave, the taste of bitter cacao, the sound of your own voice in the sweat lodge. You remember the softness of feathers as they fell from the sky, the hush that followed, the knowing glance of a stranger who became part of your story. Time slows now. Breath deepens. The world narrows, not in fear, but in comfort. The fire flickers low in your thoughts. Even the stars above seem to hum slower, as if keeping pace with your pulse. Nothing hurries you anymore. So rest. Now, the journey is complete. The story is told. The road will still be there when you wake, its white stones waiting patiently for your return. But for now, close your eyes. Let the jungle breathe around you. Let the stories crawl gently into your dreams. Let your spirit find stillness, where the maize grows tall and the ancestors whisper gently through the leaves. Good night.